All right. Well, this is the end. I'm normally used to starting the videos to say this is the beginning of week, whatever, but we finished yesterday, so this is day one of freedom.
Freedom. Yep.
5 months, 20 weeks, 140 days. Hopefully we've learnt something.
Yes. I definitely have.
I've learnt some things. I'm not keen to do it again, but that's come somewhat expected when you hear someone that has done a big challenge. It could be a fitness challenge like the Kokoda Trail or something. You don't normally hear them go, oh, I'm keen to do it a few more times in my life. It's like, I've done that. So, yeah. Should we go over some reflections of some things you've learnt or do different? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good to probably look at the learnings, but I think the other thing would be good to look at is we set out to do the challenge and I guess achieve a few objectives, and one of them was, I guess the idea was this could force some innovation, which, there's no great innovation that I can see that's actually come out of the challenge.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of learnings that has come out of the challenge.
Yeah. I was reflecting on innovation. Like, we've developed the sheep trailer. So not that it's ground-breaking innovation, but that's something we developed. So not a lot. And the other thing, I can probably put a picture of it up. When we processed 3 deer the other night, and often we just sort of hang up one deer off like the tractor or the forklift, and I was thinking, how do we do multiple deer? And it would have been in one of the videos where we did pigs. I got a large steel pallet that had like multiple pigs hanging, so you could have multiple people working. So I sort of worked out how we could sort of do that with deer. So it's not a groundbreaking thing, but when we are doing it, when we've got multiple people skinning and gutting deer at midnight or something, it does make it a bit faster. But I don't have any groundbreaking innovation. It's probably more learning. Like, it was the first time I made jerky during this challenge, and probably forced us to do a few things where otherwise we might have gone, I might leave it.
Yeah, I guess as far as learning for me, one of the biggest learnings was just the time it takes to do some of the things that we did, like whether it's processing animals, butchering, even cooking. We're normally dealing with larger cuts of meats, or I was. You just got to be so much more forward thinking. It's like the other morning, this was only a few mornings back, I'm like, I don't have anything for breakfast, I don't have anything for lunch, so okay, I'm out of eggs, I've got to go and collect some eggs, cook some breakfast, which was a baked custard, then I've got to put something on for lunch, so I put, I think, a neck from a deer, or part of a neck, in the pressure cooker, so that I have something for lunch, so so I've got to go and get some part of the neck out of the cool room and cut that up, and that probably took the best part of 45 minutes just to do that, so that I could eat for that day. But I had to do that at the start of the day. I couldn't do it at the end.
I know it was early on the first month or so, I had a new appreciation for what I call fast food, where before the challenge, fast food was like drive-through on like Hungry Jack's or Macca's or something. And then when we started the challenge, it's like, because as Evan said, it can take so long to produce food. Fast food is like, well, if you weren't on the challenge, you just drive down to the supermarket, buy some bacon and come home and cook it. Like, how fast that is compared to process the animal, hang it in the cool room, salt the bacon, turn it every few days, get the smoker out, smoke it for 6 hours, then let it cool down, cut it up. It's like, by the time you want bacon, you've got to think of it 2 weeks beforehand. There's just a lot of time. So the dream of growing all your own food and that, you have to put some time aside. Even if you do have an efficient operation, you still have to put some time aside. As you said, even just for cooking, you might have everything produced well, but you've got to have time just cooking. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the other probably learnings for me was, it's a time thing again, but it's a time to produce your vegetables and that as well. Like there's actually a bit of time in, cultivating, planting, then obviously looking after, maintaining, doing all those sorts of things. So it'd be interesting to try, not saying that we'll do it, but try this challenge in a few years' time when we've got some established fruit trees.
Yeah.
Because I feel that would take a lot of pressure off having some fruit trees where you can get some fresh produce.
Yeah.
And not rely on the veggie garden and having to put all that work in. You can just do a few things well, like you've mentioned, like just do some cucumbers or something in the veggie garden.
Yeah, I think fruit trees is definitely something which I've sort of learnt from it. And the other thing I want to talk about is work with the farm you've got. And I was talking to a farmer just this morning, and one thing of learning with this farm that we're on, because we've only been here 3 years, which sounds like ages, but you're still working out the season what works. And we've got a bullet grass, torpedo grass, which it's a great grass, it grows fast, but that's what the veggie garden's full of. It will push through weed mat. In some areas it's like impossible to get rid of, and we don't really want to spray chemicals. So work with what you've got. Now that I know how persistent the grass is, I go, our farm's probably more suited to livestock. And one thing I've looked at in the last 7 days is a small baling machine to bale hay. And I'm not saying I'm going to get one, but go, if we've got this resource here being this farm grows grass, how do we utilise livestock? How do we utilise the grass? And we're already been in discussions of okay, with the veggie garden, rather than giving up, how do we go to wicking beds? How do we pivot so grass doesn't get into the wicking beds and just take over? Because the wicking beds, they're not attached to the ground. So that's one thing I'm learning of okay, what we know with the farm. And the other thing, mulberry trees. I'm keen to put in lots and lots of mulberry trees because I sense, because we're not far above the water table, I think they're going to go quite well here, and it's a fruit where you can just go out and pick them. And if we've got 100 mulberry trees, it's good shade, it's food for us, it can be food for chickens, probably not a lot of maintenance, and they'll fruit in summer, and we can probably get some citrus for winter. So definitely put it in an orchard. I think that's part of the notes I had. As Evan just said, I think if I was to do it again, stick with a few things. Like we probably had a bit of an ambitious veggie garden and that, but if you are looking at hey, I want to grow my own food, there's 2 parts to it. One, I'd say stick with a few things and work with other people, other farms. If this is something serious, you say, hey, I want to grow my own food. You might say, what's my farm good for? And you might be good at growing watermelons, cucumbers and tomatoes. Do that well. And some other farm that's really good at growing beef and sheep, swap. You're going to grow the watermelons and cucumbers, someone else does something else, rather than trying to do 20 things really well, of you got your chickens and rabbits and your veggie garden and your melons and your fruit trees. You've only got so much mental and focus. So look at a few things and do them well. Work with other people. I've said this in other videos, but I find livestock is easier than gardens, and I've heard it before I started the challenge. To move some sheep fences or to go feed the chickens and to keep them moving around, the livestock are doing the work, where the garden you do need a little bit of I feel weekly or daily management, probably not daily management, where you do need that for livestock, but it's a bit different. And that's my opinion. There could be someone else out there and you just love horticulture and growing, and you go, I don't like animals, give me a garden any day. But that's just feedback what I find, livestock's easier. One thing that has worked well is rotational grazing. So we don't do set stocking. We don't go, there's the sheep paddock. We keep moving the sheep around, moving the pigs around, moving the chickens around. And again, I spoke to a farmer this morning. He was out here, and he was looking at our farm, and he was here 3 years ago. He goes, wow, just seeing how much the paddocks have improved. And I'm like, it's just regenerative agriculture, isn't it? Just moving them around, and he does the same. And there's areas where the sheep have been a couple of times, but the other animals haven't, and the pasture's not as good. So just keeping the animals moving, that's not necessarily part of the challenge, but more takeaways for if you are growing. One thing that I've found is the simple diet. I feel it's healthier, It's still a theory, but if you go back 400 years ago, you wouldn't have someone eating Atlantic salmon for breakfast and then eating like a mango from Fiji like a few hours later, and then like lattes and cheese and yogurts and a bit of beef and then a bit of bison. Like, we've got all these different varieties in an 8-hour period. We put them into our body and say to our body, okay, digest this and get everything out. And I feel that I'm healthier because what I'm putting in my body, it's quite simple. It's like some veggies, some eggs, some meat, rather than trying to fill it with everything that the local cafe has to offer. And that's just a theory, but I've presented that to a few people that have probably more of an idea of health, and they haven't said yes, it is or isn't the case, but they somewhat agree with it to go, yes, if you've got more of a simple diet within a day or within a week, your body's like, okay, we know what to do with that, rather than almost like 20 different food groups in an 8-hour period. I've said work with your farm. If we could get some orchards in, some fruit trees, I think that would definitely make a difference. That we could just go out there and pick fruit, and that's something we didn't have the luxury of, but it probably also made the challenge a bit more realistic, because if you're watching along and say, well, here's our 30-year-old food forest, here we are living abundantly, it might not give you hope if you've only been on your farm for a couple of weeks. So so there's some of my thoughts.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So probably just a question. Did you find it a challenge, and what was the biggest challenge?
Yes, I did find it a challenge. It was probably mentally. I don't think it was like physically. Like, there was never a day I'm like, oh, I'm just so tired because I don't have energy. It was more the thought of, I almost use the word inconvenience, but it's like you had to do a lot more planning around your meals. And one of the things, I haven't done a lot of socialisation, because you can't just rock up to someone's place for a meal unless I've sort of prepared, you guys are having the meal, but I'm making my own thing, which you can still sort of do, but it takes a little bit more prep work. So that's sort of somewhat been, there's probably something I overlooked. Like, I've been invited to business breakfast and things. I'm like, I don't want to pay $40 and go, yeah, this peppermint tea tastes nice. And everyone's like, oh, have you tasted this? I'm like, no, I haven't, but I'll take your word for it. It's good. Which I think tomorrow I'm going to a business breakfast. Interesting timing. So it's definitely been like mental, of like self-inflicted limitations to say like we're limiting ourselves. It's been a challenge, but it's been good. If we go through life and we don't have any challenges, it's like
that's right. I think I'm probably similar. The challenge is you're probably just having a bit of a bland diet is a challenge. I think our taste buds probably crave a bit more than what we're giving them, but most of it's been pretty good for me. Like, I'm pretty happy with bland stuff as far as eating the same thing over and over again. I'm pretty comfortable in that sort of space. But yeah, I think it was second last day, I was out of eggs, and then I didn't have enough eggs to make my baked custard, which literally I make one every day. And yeah, it was almost like, oh, when's this thing gonna end? Even though it's only like a day or so away.
Yeah.
Just because I couldn't get that one little thing, so my choice was sort of eat some deer meat or try and make something else with the limited stuff that I did have. So I made a couple of smoothies with a bit of egg and dates, but just didn't quite cut it. But as far as the challenge goes, I think the challenge was to end up with the same amount or more protein at the end. And when I reflect on that, in some ways it's not that great a challenge because we didn't limit inputs to the farm.
Yeah.
If we limit inputs to the farm, that could have changed things. So yeah, not saying I'm going to do it again, but if we were, I think that would make a difference. If we said, okay, we've only got $20 a week or whatever it is for inputs to the farm, it could change the whole way that we've done things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I think because we didn't limit inputs, I guess that side of things didn't seem like it was too much of a challenge.
Yeah.
I know we did things so that we could achieve the goal. Like we had to, okay, let's make sure we collect eggs, put them in the incubator. Like there was things that we did. But that definitely having unlimited inputs there helped us a lot.
Yeah, I could imagine if it was a case of you've got 2,000 kilos of stock feed, whether it be like straight wheat or chicken pellets or rabbit pellets, and you have to budget it, you'd have to get a bit more creative and go, okay, and it might be, if you did it again, it might be an all-purpose stock feed, so you can feed it to like sheep, chickens, rabbits. So you go, okay, how are we going to best utilise this to sustain us, and what other food can we feed those animals so we're not chewing through it? So I think that would definitely give us a different focus. I'd almost be up for that sort of challenge, not that we're limited in what we eat, but the challenge of going, let's start with 200 chickens or whatever and so many ton of feed, and we got to get this so many kilos to last us so long. What other inputs can we create in this 6-month period? So more on stock feed creation opposed to what we're eating, because that's probably something which I do think about from time to time. How do we feed so many animals so we're not reliant on stock feed companies so much? So yeah.
Okay, so it ended today. What did you eat? Did you go nuts?
I wanted to. Like, my mind's like, go get some Black Forest cake with like cream and sugar and whatever, but my body's sort of saying, you're going to have a hangover, dude. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, I'll probably have a sore throat the next day and a headache, and go, I can't. So I wanted to. So for breakfast, there was a few grapes in the fridge, so I just enjoyed some grapes. Cooked up some bacon, and it wasn't premium bacon, it was just like cheap supermarket bacon. It smelt nice and I ate it, and I wasn't really tasting the bacon, I was probably tasting the nitrate or whatever preservative chemical it was, so my taste buds are more sensitive and go, yeah, okay, I've eaten bacon. What else? Oh, for lunch just before filming, I made a beautiful banana smoothie. It had a little bit of protein powder, 2 bananas, some honey, some almond milk, nutmeg, vanilla extract, and it was amazing. It was like, oh my god. I had something else and my daughter, there was pancakes for dinner last night. My 5-year-old daughter because she heard, the challenge finished. She made me a pancake with jam, and I'm like, I can't eat it until tomorrow. So I was in the fridge overnight. I'm like, I'm gonna eat this, and it was nice. So I didn't go crazy, but I think as I said, my mind's like go crazy, but my body's like, you're gonna regret this. So because basically being off sugar, being off dairy, well, we did a little bit of milking, and grains towards the end. I wasn't buying ordinary flour, I was buying like tapioca flour. So basically my family is off sugar and grains, so I want to try and maintain that sort of the best I can, and I think it'll probably be good. So yeah. What about yourself? What did you eat?
What did I eat? Well, I did not sleep well last night, and I saw the clock roll over past midnight, and I thought, I think the challenge is over. So I was sitting there watching a program in bed, but I got out of bed and went and got some homemade chocolate and some roasted almonds and a little bit of milk as well, bit of cow's milk with a bit of molasses in it, and I sat down there and finished watching my show and enjoyed those.
Yeah, nice.
Then had some yogurt with a few grapes and sultanas this morning for breakfast. Yeah, I'm looking forward to yogurt. I did like yogurt, and when our budget was larger, I was buying some yogurt each week, so I haven't had yogurt for probably 8 weeks or something. So I'm not sure how much I've learnt things from it. I definitely want to stay off grains and sugar just for a health benefit. But yeah, it'd be great to say, I've learned all this stuff and it'll all stay the same, but I think naturally I'll probably go back into old tendencies like habits and that. So, but I've probably got an awareness and probably a desire to, like I want to make some more sausages in the next few weeks, and I know it's a lot of effort, but I still think it's worth it, because when I eat my own sausages that we've made here on farm, they're just better than the other stuff you buy from the supermarket, and that's for a lot of people why they do grow their own food. They're like, I don't want food with who knows what's in it, what preservatives or what's in it. So I'd probably, moving forward, I'd like to like we were basically eating all of our own meat before, but maybe put a little bit more energy into other forms of meat, whether it be sort of jerky or bacon or sausages or whatever, like sort of a bit of variety within the meat space. And yeah, the veggie garden, either though it's crazy overgrown, I'm looking forward to doing some wicking beds, like doing something, because I have had veggie gardens in the past that have produced well, and it does take time and effort. To go back on it. So by no means it's the challenge is over and I'm back to drive through Macca's and KFC. Not that I was doing much of that beforehand. So we're still going to be producing things on farm, but maybe it's with a new appreciation for it. Yeah. So I guess the big question is, did we actually end up with more protein than we started with? So we did an inventory of the animals earlier today, and we've calculated all the weights. So when we started, we had 989 kilos of animals on the farm. So I think we've probably bought some in, but we've added that to the total. But we've now got 1,168 kilos.
All right.
So we have, I guess, achieved that, ending with more protein than what we started.
Yeah, that's good. After 20 weeks, it's like, that's good.
That's right.
Yeah, because I still remember, it must have been week 1, we're like, is this even possible? Like, we worked out the calories, like how much are we going to eat? And there was there was direction, like we did that on purpose. Like we did not, we happened to end with that. As Evan said, we put the incubator on, like we joined rabbits. Yeah, but it's not like we knocked it out of the park though. It's not like we doubled, like we've maintained it, and it was you and I. So I suppose what it shows, like if you're feeding 10 or 20 people, and you want to maintain that level of meat protein of livestock over a 5-month period, you're going to have to be pretty strategic. You're going to have to look at how many animals you're getting in, when you're breeding. So yeah, it's probably given me an appreciation of how much food an area does produce in both ways. A small area can produce a lot, but even if you have a larger area but it's not managed heaps well, it might not produce heaps if you're consistently eating it sort of each week. So yeah.
So it's good to know that we've at least won on that area. More protein now than we had previous.
So did we survive or did we thrive?
I've still got to do a weigh-in, but I don't know how accurate it's going to be. I've been doing a lot of running and riding and things, so I'll probably just naturally would have lost some weight in that anyway. But I think, like, I feel strong, I feel healthy, I feel like I've got energy. You know, the weight's kind of irrelevant in that regard. If all those things are going well, then I think that's healthy. It's not like we did this to try and lose weight. So we're not skin and bone. So I think the weigh-in's probably irrelevant anyway.
That's right. It's interesting. It might be a bit of a philosophical answer or whatever, but I feel for a percentage of it I was probably surviving, like mentally, but coming to the end, that's sometimes what makes you stronger. And that's what it's like. I've come out stronger, thriving, because I've gone through that time of denying myself food or types of food, or having to work harder, because there'd be some times where, because I do a lot of cooking and I enjoy cooking, where I've just made an amazing food for the family and I might finish making it 9 o'clock at night, because I do like different things for different people, and amazing like chicken pad see which the kids love, and I finish that, I'm like, okay, are you going to sit down and eat with us, Dad? No, I haven't made my dinner yet, so now I'm making it. And it's just like, but going through that, it could be like, I'm surviving, but it sort of does make you stronger and more resilient. And I was talking to someone else this morning of having a more confident sort of like processing and butchering animals. I said, like, if 50 people like came in the driveway and go, they all need feeding, give me 2 hours and I might not be able to feed them all, but I'm going to have a bit of a game plan of how to do it. Where if you went back a year ago, I'd be like, well, I'll go count my eggs. But now I'd be like, okay, I think I could feed some troops. So it's given me an awareness of, I suppose, food security, producing food, harvesting that food, cooking, preparing that food, and feeding people. So, and I suppose that's deep down, like Chicken Caravan, this challenge and whatever. Like, I love the idea and the thoughts around food security. How do we better do food security as a family, as a community, as a state, as a nation? How do we do it? So I think I'm more on top of that. So I think it's a success.
Yeah, definitely. Very good. So survive or thrive? Did we survive or did we thrive? To me, I've actually feel like I've thrived in this. It was interesting talking to somebody, and they said, what would you stock up on from the supermarket if there was going to be a food shortage? And I said oats and dates, because I know I can kind of live off that with some eggs and meat, and, with a few veggies and things like that. So it wasn't like I had to think about the answer because
you've lived it.
Yeah, lived through part of that.
Cool. Righto. There you go. Thanks for following it along.